Welcome back to the Friday Golf Podcast. I'm Garrett Morrison, and today we're doing a golf architecture mailbag. You asked some questions on social media, and we're going to answer them. I'm going to bring in Andy Johnson to help me do that. Should be a lot of fun. But first, let's talk about USGA memberships. For more than 125 years, the USGA has been working to ensure that golf has a strong future. And for almost 50 years, USGA members have given back to the game they love by supporting programs and initiatives that affect every aspect of the game, including junior golf, environmental sustainability, the history of the game, and some of the biggest championships in the sport. On top of making a difference to the future of golf, USGA members also get back great benefits like the US Open or US Women's Open member hat, a personalized member bag tag, a subscription to the USGA's Golf Journal, which is really excellent, and more. You too can give back to golf and get back great benefits by visiting usga.org/friedegg and becoming a USGA member today. All right, let's get into our golf architecture mailbag.
Garrett, I saw the USGA's testing facility today from afar.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You're out there in the real, what I like to refer to as the real swamp. Not Jupiter, Florida, but rather North Carolina.
The Sandhills, one of the least swampy terrains in America.
You know, it's a metaphorical swamp.
I saw the testing facility from afar. I asked, "What is that house?" And the caddy in the group said, "That's the USGA's testing facility." And,
so did you do some investigations of what's going on there?
Apparently, they just got a machine that's hitting golf balls all the time, testing
and determining the future of the sport right there.
Yeah, that's why you need to be a USGA member. They do, they can have testing facilities.
That's right. They can have testing facilities. They can actually bring some data to back up the upcoming rollback.
Yeah. I think they've done a lot of that. How are you?
They have. I'm pretty good. Recovering from a bit of an illness, though I know that people are aware, one, that we had an offsite meeting last week in Austin where we all got together as a company, had a great time together, and also that Brendan was sick during your recording of the Shotgun Start podcast. And I'd just like to say for the record that we have different illnesses.
Who knows?
I've got a cold. Brendan had
I feel like I had
else.
a cold there. Maybe I was the spreader.
Maybe you were patient zero.
Spreader. Yeah. I think PJ's doing okay though.
You're doing all right. Well, PJ's young. It's the youthfulness that allows him to get through. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'm doing all right, but a little worse for the wear, I guess you could say. But yeah, excited to dig into some golf architecture topics. You want to dive in?
Yeah, we released our event schedule.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the first.
A good first question. So we do these events all over the country, all over the world this year. We've got a couple international trips, but I think one of the neat things is seeing people, a big group of people that have a genuine love of golf together, experience cool places. And we do these events all over the world. And it's cool. It's always fun to see the reactions. I have to ask you, you're not like super involved with events. I think you give input about what could be a cool event, what could be a course, what are some event course ideas. Now that you see the schedule,
I'm kept away from the planning of them pretty far. I think people know that I don't have much to contribute on that end.
Well, I'm starting to be kept away from the planning too. So,
yeah,
that makes two of us.
There are very organized, dot the I's, cross the T's people in our company who can deal with this stuff better than you and I, Andy.
Yeah, but I went from being heavily involved to less involved. But what's your favorite what's the event course that you most would want to go see in the event, on the schedule? On the schedule.
I'd love to see on the schedule. I'd love to see Colorado Golf Club. That one jumps out at me immediately. I haven't been out to Colorado Golf Club before. I played some golf in Denver.
You're a Core Crenshaw enthusiast.
This is true. This is true. I'm in the tank for Core and Crenshaw. I have to acknowledge that. Let's disclose I'm a Core and Crenshaw fanboy. In addition to that, we've never had an event at Moraine before. really cool looking golf course in Ohio, and has been nicely restored. And so I've seen a good amount of content about it, but I don't believe we've had an event there before. So that one is sticking out to me
golf
too.
course. I played a USAM qualifier there in probably about 2016. That's how I first interacted with the golf course. I had seen a little photos, and I saw the USAM sites come out, and I got a bunch of my buddies to sign up, or two of my buddies to sign up, and we road tripped it from Chicago and playing. It's really cool. It's got like a really great back part of the lot for golf, but you have to navigate this huge hill to get there. So it's interesting how both sides of the course, because you kind of play back down it. And playing down it's way easier than playing over it. But it is phenomenal. There are some holes that I think about a lot out there. The 7th is this great little short par 4. The 16th is like a very, very dramatic par 4. That both of those play down the hill, and then there's some just really phenomenal holes intermixed in. It is a really
my
good
impression of it. Yeah, I've heard, it looks like a good piece of land, and yet at the same time, maybe a kind of quirky property.
It's
like
a very
weirdly
weird property. So like 10, 11, 12 there are like really flat. It's interesting because it has a mix of like super dramatic elevation changes. It has a mix of really good, like perfectly scaled golf ground. And then it's got like a flat section, and the flat section has some like pretty interesting greens. Like the 10th hole is really neat. It kind of like bends right and has this green that like just sits up. It's like a little tabletop green, falls off everywhere. So it's a really diverse set of holes. Like there's different portions of the property. And Alex Nipper Campbell, I think it's Alec. It might be Alex or Alex Nipper Campbell.
Pretty sure it's Alex. Alex Nipper Campbell. Yeah, his name. Nipper is in quotes. It's Nipper, that's like his nickname. That's how he was known, as Nipper Campbell.
Nipper, he designed a ton of courses in the Dayton area, but that's it. And he
was involved in the country club.
Yes, he was involved. He was the head
Brookline.
pro, I believe, if my memory serves me correct.
He's one of those early kind of, I believe he's Scottish. He's one of those early kind of spreaders of the game in the U.S. And he just showed up kind of some places and did pretty cool architectural work.
It is, it's really cool. It gets totally overshadowed by Inverness and Camargo. But I would say that at least one of those two courses I would play in Moraine way more out of 10 than... I really like Moraine.
Cool.
I've been dying to go back, honestly, since I played that tournament. I haven't been back, and
it's been a few years.
It's always been on like my mind of somewhere that I've wanted to go back and shoot. But I'm thrilled to be there. They hosted the Western Am last year. That would have been a fun tournament to go watch. But it's a really cool place. So Moraine is your Colorado
Moraine
Golf
would
Club.
Be Colorado Golf Club looks sensational. Both of those courses you've been to and written about. Are there any courses on here? I mean, Mid Ocean, obviously. It's like that's obviously
that one's the
very
easy
appealing.
answer. Mid Ocean, a couple days in
McDonald
Bermuda.
Golf Course. Yeah, in Bermuda.
Beyond just playing Mid Ocean, a couple days in Bermuda sounds pretty nice.
Sounds unbelievable.
I would say the other one that I am particularly keen on, and this is an easy answer for me because I love it in the area, Belvedere Kingsley Club, with a night in between in northern Michigan, is about as good as it gets. I absolutely love both those golf courses. I love the area. It's the perfect time of year to be there. I mean, there's anytime, you could say it's the perfect time of year to be in Traverse City, anytime from about July 1st to beginning of October, but it's a great time to play golf. So Belvedere and Kingsley Club, that one to me for 2 day is pretty awesome. Two really different golf courses, two really different properties. And it's if you did that, the right way for me to do that is you go in Friday, spend the weekend in Traverse City, and then it's a Sunday, Monday event, and then and then you fly out. Actually, like sneaky Traverse City is getting pretty easy to get to is the other thing. You can fly direct from a lot more places than before. So that'd be the event that I kind of got my eye on. I mean, there are a lot of good ones. I love Skokie. That's a course that I always like love going to play from when I was a kid. The occasional times that I would get to go in high school, I could rattle off all of these.
Skokie's another first-time host of an event. Pretty cool to see that one on there. That there's been some good work there recently to kind of recover the course's architectural lineage, and it's it's a great place and high density population area, right? It's basically, I mean, just north of Chicago. It's right in there. It's
our first Chicago event. We've never had an event in Chicago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and
that's finally we've stopped disrespecting Chicago.
Well, I moved out. I could, it's like the adage, you don't take poops where you live, right?
Is that the adage?
What's the adage? What's the?
Well, well, I think it's more profane than that.
Yeah, it's but yeah. So now that I don't live there,
isn't that an adage about not having affairs with people that you work with? Isn't that what it's about? Okay.
I think that's what it is.
This is also good advice. All right. Anyway,
I messed that up. But anyways, that's the event. So you can see it's all over socials. It's in Club TFE if you remember, but it's all over our social medias. If you
check it out,
if you want to check
lots of Club TFE specific events this year. So if you're interested in those, then joining Club TFE would be a great step toward participating in them. And wonderful lists that our team put together there. There have been some questions about the geographic coverage of the events. West Coast is not super well represented yet, but just keep in mind that this list is it's not going to change a lot, but there might be some things added, some things, so just stay tuned. We're not disrespecting your part of the country. And we'll also, year on year, we get to places eventually. So yeah, Andy and I would not disrespect the West Coast. We both live here, in fact.
Yeah, well, that's probably why we're not hosting anything in the Pacific Northwest, is because of what I just said. You don't want to mix business with pleasure, right?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, I can't come to Portland. All right, Andy, next topic I wanted to talk with you about before we get to the mailbag questions. The big discussion point in the golf architecture realm of golf discourse lately has been the release of the golf.com top 100 list. This is America's top 100 courses according to golf.com's panel. Some of the headlines here: the Lido enters at number 30 in the US.
I guarantee you have some thoughts about that.
Yeah. Old Barnwell enters at 51. Interlaken, recently renovated by Andrew Green, re-enters the list at 73. It had dropped out before. Medina, number 3, redesigned by Ogilvy, Cocking and Mead, OCM, a great architecture firm from Australia, re-enters at 74. Ladera, Gil Hanse's new course in the California desert, enters the list at 87. Pinehurst, number 10, which you have played quite recently. In fact, maybe a couple of hours ago. Enters the list at 88. So you I don't know, maybe you have some thoughts. Sankaty Head, old course, but has recently come back into fashion, I suppose, enters the list at 92 for the first time. Old Elm comes in at 94.
Oh my, I didn't even realize Old Elm snuck in.
Old Elm.
So
hey, things are changing. Trinity Forest comes in at 96. Philly Cricket re-enters at 98. Those are all the new courses on the list.
Some of this stuff, like with Sankaty and Old Elm, I think they finally reached a Raider mass, right. and Old Elm's done some amazing work over the years to get there. But I mean,
Old Elm's been bubbling under the surface for a while, where people have been talking about how good it is. And now finally enough people perhaps from the panel have gotten there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's one of my favorite courses in the world.
So any thoughts about some of that stuff that it is pretty low on the list, probably should be higher. Any thoughts about what I just went over there? Some of the new courses on the list, any takes there?
I think I really like the golf.com list in terms of like I think the list that I most resonate with of the major lists that you see out there. I think it kind of, so just in general, I think like I don't have anything that like I really see the world differently than. I do think like just overarching, like you start to see who's tumbling down. And for the most part, like big tumblers down are new golf courses that the newness of them is wearing
it's just
off.
wearing off. Yeah, it's like golf courses that maybe opened or got renovated in the mid 2010s or somewhere around there. So we're talking about some of the biggest tumblers. MPCC Dunes, Gamble Sands took a bit of a tumble.
Yeah. So to me, like what kind of happens is that courses do renovation work and then they get that new bump and it's like good work, but it's like, I mean, I think one of the things just overarching with the golf architecture world that I don't like that's going on is like the keeping up with the Joneses that's happening. And it's totally happening. You know, a lot of it is based around these rankings. And it's like, oh, we fell 10 spots. Because we fell 10 spots, we need to, you know, this is oversimplifying everything. I want to be clear here. This is me just oversimplifying things.
It's irresponsible rhetoric.
But like the general is like, we've fallen 25 spots over the last 5 years. We better go spend $15 million to go back up.
Right.
And that's what the cycle is. That's like kind of how it works. And new courses come in, and new courses are the most everybody wants to go see. Everybody wants to know how new courses are. You know, the first couple years, they jump onto the list and then they can fall out. Right.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, overarching like about those, like that's just kind of my general idea and trends of what this is. Like when I look at it from a big picture, is like it's courses that got renovated and new courses of the early 2010s are falling down, and new courses and courses that were freshly renovated are going up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, and that's not to say that they didn't do good work at Interlaken and Medina number 3, which are the two kind of big ticket re-entries onto the list. Important courses that were worked on recently. Again, Andrew Green did the work at Interlaken and OCM at Medina. I think that work has been really good. You've seen both of those courses post work.
I think,
and your impressions have been very positive. But guess who the smartest looking courses right now on this list are overall? And that's the Fisher's Island, the National Golf Links, the courses that have preserved as opposed to getting caught up in these trends.
That's not fair. I
think it's fair.
They're working with a different set of cards. That's like saying that you drew a full house, you know. And
well,
then
what if Interlaken had just never changed in the first place?
Yeah, true. But like, I think one of the things that's not the way history doesn't work that way with everywhere. You know,
St. Kitty Head is a well-preserved course. St. Kitty Head's never changed. Now all of a sudden it's a top 100 golf course.
I just think, I mean, Old Elm's gone through a dramatic transformation. I played Old Elm in high school golf matches, and it is unrecognizable. It was like you know, you just go get lost in all the trees out there. It was like a tunnel every hole. So I just think like Medina and Interlaken's land is like truly extraordinary. It is like mesmerizing golf land, and it's really cool. I think Medina is like a completely different story because they completely blew up. They put their foot in the ground and they just said, we're going a completely different direction.
Yeah, but that course has been really, really kind of like the way the course looked 10 years ago was so much different than what it was originally. There's nothing to go back to at Medina number 3. Basically, it's just gone.
Yeah, I think like one of the things I appreciate about Medina number 3 is I think they understood that the golf course, honestly, the golf course, no matter, I think they were top 10 in the rankings at one point, but that golf course probably never was a great golf course ever in its history. And I think like some places need to realize this is like, we were never a extraordinary golf course. And at what point do we give up saying like, okay, we're at 90% of what we can be. Are we really going to spend $15 million to get to 96% of what we can be? Because that's like, I was having a conversation with Tom Doak, honestly, today about this. And he brought up how he wrote this in his anatomy of a golf course literally like 30 years ago about how much clubs spend to get to 80%, I think is what it was. I think the number's 80%, and how you basically have to spend double to add 10% after that on your maintenance budget or your architecture. And to me, like, my question, and I didn't mean this to be this, but my question is it worth the money? Is it worth the extra $1 million you spend every year in maintenance to go from 90% of what your course could look like to, you know what, we get like our playing conditions are 10% better 30 days a year, and we spent $1 million to do that? Like, is anybody going to notice that? And with golf courses, I love, like, I am absolutely in the business of when golf courses renovate. It's good for me. I have new stuff to talk about. We have new stuff to kick around. But like a lot of golf courses, I wonder, okay, so like you're going to renovate your golf course. You're going to spend $15 million, and maybe you're a Doak 5. And you're going to spend $15 million and you're going to go to Doak 6? Like, what are we doing? Like, in Medina's case, I think if they had done a renovation without significant changes, they would have gone from what I believed was like a 5 to maybe a 6. And I think, like, from my perspective, the thing I appreciate about what they did was they said, we are going to try and do something way different, and we think we're going to be better because of it. And they are way better because they did something wildly different, out of the box. And I think like a lot of courses restore something that should never have been restored at this point. I've swung the pendulum on how I feel about this, but there are so many restorations being done of golf courses that frankly shouldn't be restored. You could find a better solution if you went with a renovation. It just takes a lot, and you're going to spend the same amount of money.
Well, and it takes really good taste too. You have to have a good architect.
Yes,
because
it's way harder. It's way riskier.
It's way riskier because once you commit to big changes, then you're in danger of it being 50 years from now, and you're in the same position that Oakland Hills was when it looked at its Robert Trent Jonesified South Course and was like, this was the wrong decision. You know, we went the wrong direction, and now we've got a completely reverse course. It's tough.
Well, this is the beautiful thing about golf architecture is that it's like clothing. I mean,
yeah,
I literally went home this summer to my house. I don't know if I've told this story on air. I went home to my house and I was looking in my old closet, and I saw there were some shoes still in it, and there was a pair of Birkenstocks that I wore in high school. And I was like, wow, Birkenstocks are back. And I put them on and they still fit. And I brought them back to my house, and I wear them. And I think like the thing that's amazing about golf architecture is 20 years from now, somebody is going to think that everything we were doing right now in time was stupid.
Yeah.
And that they should be doing things this way. And who knows what it's going to be? It could be a run back to like long rough. I hope not. I hope it's not. It would be great for my golf game, you know.
Yeah.
But it could be that, or like I think that's like the fascinating thing is like we're absolutely in a trend time capsule, and I think people sometimes forget to think about that.
Well, this is why I think that courses that decide who they are from their inception and just stick with it through thick and thin can end up seeming pretty smart. Now, this calculus is different for courses that host championships because those courses want to host the championship now. They want to be relevant now. And so I understand why they make the decisions that they make. But those courses that just decide from the very beginning, for better or worse, this is what this golf course is, and we're just going to stick with it. Those courses end up, the fashions come back around, and we end up valuing those courses that express something of a particular time period authentically.
I think, though, like one of the things, what you said about like National and Fisher's Island and Crystal Downs, I mean, there was a time period none of those were in the top 10.
That's what I'm referring to. Yeah, if you look at a Golf Digest list from the 1970s, those courses were shit.
So I will say this is like all of those had like absolute extraordinary properties.
Yeah.
And I think like
it's
it's
great
hard
golf courses. So
it's hard to compare. Like I always think you get like to me like the top 10 are all on like there isn't one course in the top 10 of this list. And the top 10 is Pine Valley, Cypress Point, Shinnecock, National Golf Links of America, Oakmont, Augusta National, Sandhills, Marion, Pebble Beach, and LACC North.
It's exactly the same ones that everybody else has.
So if you get to 11 at Fisher's, like at that point, there is not one ordinary piece of golf ground there.
Oh, yeah.
At 12, we have our first piece of truly extraordinary golf architecture that elevates a rather, like it's a good piece of land, but a rather ordinary piece of land in Chicago golf. Yeah. And like, I think Pinehurst number 2 is in a similar boat.
I think both of those should be higher, but
who are you kicking down? Yeah, I know who you're kicking down.
Well,
Pebble Beach.
You know who I'm kicking. You know exactly who I'm kicking down. I've made my opinions perfectly clear on the subject of Pebble Beach.
It went up 2 spots.
Did it?
What about their work got better over the last year? They brought fairway lines in so that there's not fairway running up to the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's just like we have to remind ourselves from time to time that these lists are fundamentally ridiculous. Well, there's no justifying them aside from just saying they're kind of fun to talk about and debate. And here we are talking about them. So we're doing golf.com's work for them. But this is a ridiculous exercise. And I really wish people wouldn't do it. But, I recognize why the magazines and golf media companies feel it necessary to continue to rate courses in this manner. But it's just an absurd thing that we do.
I think the other the list has to change. Because it can't not change.
Right, exactly.
You're like, wait,
they can't change it too much. Yeah,
nothing changed.
Yeah, right.
Here's the new list. It's the same because we went through a period of time where like nothing really was happening.
Yeah,
not a lot of new courses were being built. It would be amazing it'd be amazing to see a list that never changed.
What if they just canceled it one year and said nothing changed? Sorry.
I mean, it's a huge website traffic boom, but
and it's always been that way, not for the website, but as a magazine seller. Nothing is better for golf magazines than this top 100 list. It's a sensation, and that's the reason it exists and why it keeps coming back around and so we're just kind of caught in this vicious circle with it, and sometimes I just want to get out of it.
I mean, honestly, though, like if you look through this list, I know you have your grievances with Pebble Beach. I have like no in like I think I've talked about this on this podcast before, but like, you know, if you ask me, do you want to play Pacific Dunes or let's just go with one that's, or we'll go Pacific Dunes or Augusta National.
Mm-hmm.
I've played both of them. Not a humble brag. This is not a humble brag. But honestly, some days and people would say this is crazy. I think I'd probably play as many rounds of Pacific Dunes as Augusta National. Like, to me, they aren't very different.
Well, that's because you're asking the question, which one would I rather play? Which is a question that asks for a subjective response and therefore an honest response, which I find to be interesting, right? Because we could then have a discussion about that, why you would prefer to play, you know, Pacific Dunes over Augusta National if you're given 10 rounds. But when you ask the question, what is the greatest course, then that presumes that we're about to have a discussion of objective quality, which is where I think the ridiculousness of this list comes in.
It's a subjective thing.
That's why yeah, I think that's what I'm saying when I say that this is an absurd exercise, because it's presenting itself as something authoritative, but it just can't ever be that, because that doesn't exist when it comes to evaluating golf courses. But one thing I do find interesting about the golf.com list, and maybe this should be the last thing we say about it before we move on, but
well, maybe we just won't get to any questions. Maybe we'll just talk about the top 100
it'll just
list.
be the rest of the podcast. We'll still call it a golf architecture mailbag podcast. So that'll still be the title. But one thing I do find interesting about this list is as a kind of survey of the opinions of the golf intelligentsia at a particular moment, because I think that's what golf.com's panel is. Yeah. In contrast to the Golf Digest panel, which is huge and kind of a big tent and composed of, I think, a different kind of golfer for the most part, and the Golf Week list, which is in some ways similar. The golf.com list is like a sort of hand-selected list of insiders, of people who are very well informed generally about golf courses and golf course architecture, who are well traveled, who have read all the books and had all the conversations with all the people. And this is a view into what they think is hot at a particular moment. And what's interesting is right now, in that group, in that segment of the golf obsessed population, Old Barnwell is hot. The Lido is hot. Walter Travis is hot. Courses like Sankaty Head are hot. You know what? I would place a bet right now that at some point we're going to see Wild Horse in Nebraska enter this list within the next few years. If the composition of the panel stays the same.
If enough people get out there. That's a big if. If the composition of the panel remains the same is a big question. That is a big if.
Not necessarily something that's for sure. The panel that exists right now in some ways reflects the personality of the architecture editor at golf.com, who has been for the past few years, Rand Morissette. And that's why this list is maybe the most appealing of the lists to you and me, Andy, because Rand Morissette, the founder of Golf Club Atlas, is a big influence on the way you and I think about golf courses. And that website, Golf Club Atlas, is a big influence on your and my education in this subject. And so, yeah, that list is going to turn out to be a little more congenial to us than some others. And so I find it interesting for that reason. It's kind of a temperature check on where we are in what we consider to be quality golf course architecture, as opposed to a representation of what are actually the best golf courses, which is always an impossible thing to do.
Can I ask one final question here?
Sure.
What's the one course that when you see it on one of these lists, you get irrationally upset that it's not there? I'll give you mine too.
Okay. I mean, I'm not looking at the list right now. Why don't you give me yours, and I'll bring the list up, and I have a couple of ideas, but I want to make sure. Yeah. What is it for you?
I'm gonna say the one that is like the first one that I'm just like irrationally upset about is
this is a great
Bandon Dunes being number 49. I just,
oh, Andy, just steering into traffic.
I can't do it. I can't. I think I've like, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to say it. Why wouldn't I? I'm at the point. I never want to play the golf course again if I'm at the resort. I'd rather spend my time other places. And I just don't think that means that it's a top 50 golf course in the country. So that's like the only reason I'll go play Bandon Dunes if I'm at Bandon Dunes Golf Resort is if somebody in my group really, really wants to play it. Otherwise, I'll spend my time at any of the other golf courses.
I think you might be able to guess mine, but I always see it on these lists way, way too high, just like irrationally high, and I just don't get it. And that's the East Course at Oak Hill Country Club. Sorry, I don't get it. I don't. It's like fine. It's a fine golf course. It's like a second tier Donald Ross design on an okay piece of land. Like, what are we doing here? Why is this a top 30, top 40 golf course? What is it about it? I just don't. I don't see it. I don't get it.
I think in Golf Digest it was rated ahead of LACC, which I thought was like insane.
It's so high. It might be above Pinehurst number 2 on that Golf Digest list. I'm sorry if that's not the case. I apologize. But like, I feel like Pinehurst number 2 is one of America's great works of golf architecture. I mean, talk about like perfect. You know, that place is amazing.
I think the other thing that needs to be said about Pinehurst number 2 versus the courses that are around it is what goes into presenting a golf course when you literally have like, I don't know exactly the rounds that are played at Pinehurst number 2, but it's probably 50,000 rounds a year or roughly 40, maybe it's 40. I mean, right now while I'm at this resort, I think they're doing double T starts starting at like 7:30 in the morning on Pinehurst number 2. So they tee off 1 and 10 in the morning and afternoon so they can get the maximum number of people out on the golf course. So you just think about like what goes into presenting that golf course versus, you know, Chicago Golf that maybe gets 8,000 rounds a year. It's not the same. It's like, and I always think about like, and I'm not saying that I want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. Pinehurst number 2 being available and open to the public. But I also think like, what would Pinehurst number 2 look like if it had 8,000 rounds played instead of 48,000 rounds played a year? It would be dramatically differently presented.
It would be differently received too by top 100 panels.
Oh yeah,
I do think even in our era, even after all the work that everybody has done to highlight the virtues of public courses, that there is still a public course penalty in these rankings.
That's why
not every course suffers it.
That's why it's big of me to go after one of the few public courses on the course.
Yeah, we should start insulting Bethpage Black too. All right, now
that could be one of the biggest sleepers.
It's probably a little too high on this list, but there are a lot of public courses that just don't make this list at all that probably deserve to be on there. In any case, let's talk about Red Rooster golf gloves. Before we get to our golf architecture mailbag questions. Listen, I don't have the smooth segues like Brendan has. I'm not professionalized like that.
Here's how you could have done it. You could have said,
okay,
now that we've gotten a grip on the golf.com rankings, let's talk about what you're using for your grips and Red Rooster Golf.
Speaking of aggressive advertising that's just really in your face, let's move from the golf.com discussion to Red Rooster golf gloves. PJ is sitting in his booth right now, just waving and thumbs downing all of these things that we're saying right now. So let's just get to the ad copy. So it is Black Friday all month long at Red Rooster Golf. This is a great company that makes awesome golf gloves that you and I use, Andy. So we can personally testify to the virtues of this product.
I want to say, how long till November's just Black Friday? You know, how long till the
or
month's just known
November.
as, yeah. But anyways, these gloves. So the Club TFE member gift was a Red Rooster glove with a fried egg logo on it, and I got so many texts from people, like very good players, people that I know from competitive golf, that were like, "Can I buy like a whole pack of these? These gloves are incredible. They're great gloves." I wore my Red Rooster today. I only have one. I don't really go through gloves very quick. I need to get more. I need to order more.
Nobody wants to be next to the guy with the sweaty, crackly glove.
It's not
but
crackly.
The thing about Red Rooster gloves is that they're really soft.
I don't wear out gloves. I don't grip. My hand doesn't sweat very much, and I don't grip the club tightly. So I don't burn through gloves like a lot of people. I have good glove etiquette. It's not like they're stinky and smelly, but they anyways, this Red Rooster glove's great. They're really high performance gloves. I like, one of the things I appreciate is like entrepreneurs that go out to solve an issue and they wanted to make a better glove, and I think they've made a really damn good glove.
Okay, so let's talk about the deal. November 20th through 26th is free shipping all week on everything. Now, Red Rooster gloves always ship free, but now is your chance to stock up on head covers, hats, belts, towels, and more without the extra cost of shipping. So that's what's available basically this coming week. Then November 27th through December 3rd, back by popular demand, is the Mystery 3-glove pack. This is for a limited time. You can get 3 mystery Cabretta leather golf gloves at 33% off. This is a great gift idea as well as a treat for yourself. And don't forget, throughout all of this, you can use your exclusive code FriedEgg50. That's all one word, FriedEgg50, to buy 1 glove and get 1 glove 50% off. So stock up, get your gifts, and make the most of these holiday sales at redroostergolf.com. All right. Want to get to some golf architecture mailbag questions, Andy?
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Okay, let me start you with this one. This is from Matt McLaughlin on Blue Sky. This is a question from Blue Sky. Who is the Matt Eberflus of golf course architecture?
I think like Matt Eberflus runs a pretty good defense. So he's like he's somebody that gets like halfway there, but it has like pure incompetence in the other half. Has no game management skills. So, overall management, not good. Maybe has like a few good characteristics. I would maybe go generally aloof. I would maybe go with maybe Dick Wilson. No, that's too mean to Dick Wilson, honestly.
Is it?
I think so.
Dick Wilson built some good golf courses. But he did have his limitations, right?
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like, it's kind of like Matt Eberflus runs like his cover 2. Dick Wilson's like very much like a lot of bunkers. Like, it was just kind of throw bunkers at it. I think Dick Wilson is pretty decent. Maybe Joe Lee. Maybe I'd go with Dick Wilson's underling, Joe Lee, who he destroyed a lot of good golf courses in Chicago too. So that fits. Matt Eberflus has destroyed Bear fans' hearts for now 3 years running. So yeah, I'll do that. All right.
How about Tom Weiskopf? Tom Weiskopf was my thought. R.I.P. By the way, we're very sorry about his passing, but Tom Weiskopf, I feel, is a very good architect in a lot of ways, but his courses did have some kind of key limitations when it came to some cookie cutter shaping and things like that. So that's what comes to mind from your description of Matt Eberflus, though I think Tom Weiskopf may have been a better golf architect than Matt Eberflus is a football coach.
All right. Putterfly asks you, what design issues do par 3 courses have over traditional courses?
So is this question more like what design problems do par 3 courses have as opposed to traditional courses?
I don't know. I think you should just opine about the state of par 3 courses.
Par 3 courses? Sure. Par 3 courses. I guess are kind of having a moment in terms of, not necessarily in terms of a lot of them getting built, but in terms of how much people say they want them. But I would say that the issue with building a par 3 course, the thing that's challenging about building a short course is finding true variety when you have just one par 3 after another. You need to work really hard to find that hole-to-hole variety and to make sure that each hole is memorable after the round. That's a really tall task when you're only working with one kind of hole.
Well,
and I think the courses that do it well, the short courses that do it well, are amazing.
The other aspect of it is that you're dealing with small pieces of land that don't have diversity in landscapes.
Yeah, right.
Like one of the things is like a big 18-hole golf course navigates,
takes you on a journey.
Let's just say 200 acres, especially new builds, 200 acres plus of property. So you go into like all these different places and there's space to have big landforms. Like par 3 courses situate, sub 40 acres. And a lot of times they're kind of like built off to the side on like, hey, this land we can't use for anything else. Go build. It's kind of like, I think there's like a great design renaissance with par 3 courses, but I do think it still is. I remember Bill Coore talking about how like par 3 courses when he was growing up were known as executive courses, and they're not like they weren't thought of as real golf courses. I still think that we're at the stage where developers do not consider par 3 courses a great use of great land. They're just like, okay,
they're not going to prioritize it.
Yeah, we can't put a full course here, so here you go. You could use this as your par 3 course. And I think that puts a huge emphasis on just green design. If you don't have diverse land features. I think like one of my...
And skill in green design, like sheer skill, because like any architect can make 9 greens, say if it's a 9-hole par 3 course, can make 9 greens really different from each other, but some of them are going to be ridiculous looking or just kind of stupid. To build a bunch of par 3 greens that really work and are also really different from each other takes a lot of skill.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things that I don't think par 3 courses in general, I'd rather see less holes and more variety in yardage than the current. I feel like the current thing is just like, hey, just build a bunch of sub 120 yard holes, and I think that's kind of boring. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to go hit a little wedge over and over and over and over again for however many holes you've created. And now the new things don't make it 9 or 18. So, whatever number between 9 and why don't we like a question I always have is like, why don't we have like a 4-hole course, a 4-hole short course that's like 120 yard hole, 170 yard hole, 190 and 220. I'd play that. I'd love to play it. And, does the business model just not work?
Yeah, maybe if the resorts that have a lot of these courses are charging what they charge for a round at like Bandon Shorties or Bandon Preserve, that if it's a 5-hole course, then they just can't make that be efficient. But I don't know. It just seems like a lot of the destination resorts that are building the most exciting par 3 courses are building them as amenities, not as cornerstones of their profitability, right? And so if you're building it as an amenity, presumably...
I think it's a cornerstone of their profitability because they've realized it's like the perfect afternoon place that people that can't, they get a charge a greens fee of 60 or whatever, and then they know people are going there, and it's like half golf, half bar.
Yeah, you're right. They can sell a lot of drinks there.
I think it's a profit center, and it's on a piece of land that is like otherwise unused. I'm more talking about like why hasn't anybody ever built like a 4-hole course on a tiny piece of land?
Yeah. That would be like an independent course.
Is it like completely? It could be that I haven't ever thought about like trying to make the business work, but is that like completely unfeasible to have a golf course that you could play in 30 minutes? Like why?
I think that's
why
probably
is there
it,
not a
just
form of golf that you could play in 30 minutes?
Believe me, Andy, I wish there were. I just think it's I think it's the business part of it. And I think that that's in general an issue with short courses that are independent of resorts, where you just have a par 3 course that is on its own and has to generate its popularity in and of itself. Right? That's kind of what I meant when I said that these par 3 courses are amenities at these resorts. If these resorts didn't have their 18-hole regulation courses, then the par 3 courses wouldn't be nearly as successful or nearly as easy to make work. But if you have just a short course on its own, it's just a little bit harder to make the business work because people have proven over and over that they're just more likely to go pay for a full round at a par 72 18-hole course.
Absolutely. I do think a neighborhood 4-hole course could work.
It would be amazing. I mean, I'd love it. There are like no golf courses in my town, essentially, but there are little pieces of land with space for 4 golf holes. So trust me, would love this to be the case. Related question here from Stephen Proctor.
Because you could just mow the greens out.
Yeah. No, I agree. Can I give you this question from Stephen Proctor? Because I think it relates to what we're talking about. He asks, what prospect do you see of more short, sporty courses of the par 68 variety being built in the years ahead? So I wanted to throw that into the mix too, because I've heard you talk about these like second courses that clubs in Ireland and Great Britain have, like at Royal County Down and Royal Portrush, kind of the second
Castle
course
Rock.
at the club. Yeah. It might have been
course.
considered in an earlier age, the young people's course or the ladies course. In fact, there are a couple of, like Formby ladies course in England. I feel like these are such fascinating courses and so cool. Sedge Valley is maybe a little bit in that mold or kind of pushing toward that end of the spectrum, the shorter, sportier course that can have a par under 70. Do you feel like there's a possibility that these could become more popular and more viable as golf courses?
Well, I think that they should be just in general, because the idea of par 5s really existing is like a farce in general. Like
wow. Didn't expect that.
Do par 5s actually exist at like higher levels of the game? Sure, they exist for the average player, but they always that was a long par 4 back like in the early 1900s. A long par 4, like almost every par 5 is reachable in 2 by a better than scratch player. So like at that point, I'm asking, like, what is a par 5? Right. Is it actually a par, like the long par 4 used to be a 3-shot hole for your 15 handicap. They just raised the par to 5 to make you feel better, And
can we keep working these holes into routings when they have to be like 700 yards long from the back tees in order to be legitimate par 5s? Can we keep finding space for these holes? It just becomes harder and harder.
Exactly. So like to me, if you just take out the fact that like par 5s don't really exist, they're just birdie holes for really good players, and they're still hard for the average player. If you take away that like par 5s for a percentage of golfers do not exist, then like what if like that makes the golf holes harder for good players? A par 68 like is really hard because your birdie opportunities, you have to hit really good shots to make birdies. Like it's really hard to make birdies when you have a 70-yard wedge in. It's not that hard to make birdies when you hit driver 3-wood around the green or driver long iron around the green and you get up and down, So when you think about it, more courses should have a lower par at the highest level of the game. I think what's interesting about par 68 and 69 courses is I think it brings skill together in the way that Sedge Valley did. Like, it's like a golf course that makes good players think they have to hit really good shots. But like when you make the hole shorter, all of a sudden more people, when the golf course is shorter, more types of players have the ability to hang around. Like power players, it brings like an element of skill. I'll never forget, I played a match once at Prairie Dunes, and the match was set up where if whichever team won the last hole got to pick the tee. And I was playing a younger guy and an older guy. And the older guy was like a 4 handicap that clearly earlier in his life was like a +2. And when we won a hole, we moved all the way back. And when they won a hole, they moved all the way up. And it was terrifying because like all of a sudden this guy who like clearly was a great wedge player and still was a great wedge player was playing all the way up, and he was getting wedges in his hand. And like, sure, I could drive it up by the green, but this guy was hitting like 80-yard wedges, and he was like a great wedge player. So like to me, when you make the golf course shorter, it all of a sudden introduces more varieties of skill that can succeed. So yes, there should be more sporty golf courses, but I doubt that it's going to go that direction.
Well, Michael Kaiser is one of the most influential developers in golf right now. Michael Kaiser being Mike Kaiser's son, right? And Michael and his brother Chris are behind a lot of the kind of new Dream Golf developments. I know Michael Kaiser to be obsessed with the idea of the short, sporty golf course. And so if anybody can have an influence on the general trends of the golf industry, it would have to be him, right? And so I hope that there is some kind of, I don't know, trickle down or trickle sideways effect from Sedge Valley and some of these other par 60 something courses that I think Michael Kaiser wants to build. Right?
I think that their next course, the Commons up there, is going to be pushing in that direction.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably who visited saw the grassing of it happening and coming to life this summer. But I think like I do like one of the things that excites me about Michael is he wants to build different stuff. Like they're building a lot of new courses, and it's not just we're just going to roll out the ball and do the same thing. Like he wants to have ideas around how each course differentiates itself.
Yeah. Sand Valley's kind of a laboratory right now. It's such an interesting site of golf course design at the moment. You know, the Lido and Sedge Valley coming out recently, and this Commons course is coming soon. So yeah, if you want to get some sense of where things could go next, it wouldn't be a bad idea to look at some of the things that they're doing at Sand Valley, because it's pretty smart. All right. Do you have another question for me, or do you want me to toss one at you?
I got one for you. Okay. Let's ask, this is from Stroke and Distance. What in progress or up and coming projects do you feel will become game changers for the industry?
Oh man, I saw this question and I was like, this is going to be really hard to answer because I don't really know. Some projects that are really different that are coming down the pipeline right now that maybe could end up being influential. I would look out for what Tom Doak and his team are doing at Sandglass. Now, as for the project being influential, that might be hard because the course is not going to be that available to that many people. It's going to be a very private golf course. But the method that Tom Doak's team is using there, kind of marshaling LiDAR data to a different end than it was used in the Lido project, kind of using templates from other courses, like scans from other courses as a starting point, and then massaging them into something slightly different, is a really interesting method and might end up being influential. Who knows? As this kind of technology starts to enter golf design more, maybe that will end up being influential. There are some projects that I would hope would be influential. We're seeing some public courses, some municipal courses get some needed work, like at Miami Lakes in Florida. We recently had a feature on this in in Design Notebook. That's getting a renovation. Hooper Golf Course, public golf course, got a nice restoration. This is in New Hampshire, Wayne Stiles course. Bournemouth Sands could be a cool one. So maybe these will be influential, but I don't know. They're just different at this moment.
I'm also Jay Blasie's redesigning Poppy Ridge in Livermore. He's invited me out a bunch of times. I feel bad. You know when you can't do something so many times that they stop inviting you. I think I've reached that point with them. When you don't respond to enough emails, they start thinking maybe this guy doesn't like me. Or it's just like when your friends ask you to do something and you just get caught in too many situations where you just like you're doing something else, they just stop inviting you.
Then you wake up
never
one
want
day
to
and
fall
you have
into
no friends.
that. I think Jay has put me in that bucket. I'm no longer getting invited.
Official apology to Jay Blasey. He is doing exciting work out there at Poppy Ridge. I'm looking forward to seeing it very much.
Yeah, I think that's like the exciting thing. And who knows what's going to happen with the economy? It seems like people are pretty bullish on it. If the economy continues to be good, like it's amazing. It's that golf will be in an amazing place if I think people have had this like doomsday feeling about the industry and are we going to go into a bubble? But if the economy is strong, I mean, golf is going to continue to flourish. Like I think I've had this realization over the last like year or two is just like how much great work is being done. And I think like a lot of this goes with like the Interlaken and Medina stuff. It's just like, it's amazing how much good. And then, I mean, the new courses that are being built, like Broom's Edge is a super, super cool golf course. The new Broom's Edge, Old Barnwell, Tree Farm, like, I mean, like those 3 golf courses all in like a pretty small vicinity are awesome golf courses. Like if you had, we're leaving a time where if like one of those got built in 10 years, you'd be happy. And it's like, oh, here's like 3 awesome golf courses in the, in kind of the Sandhills of South Carolina that get built in a matter of 3 years,
Well, let me raise a countervailing opinion that I've seen out there in response to all this work that we've seen recently. It seems like a lot of the questions that we got to this call for questions and past recent ones have had as a premise that a lot of the golf architecture we've seen recently has been similar, right? Has had similarities to each other. That we're seeing too much of the same kind of work, too much of the Corin Crenshaw, Tom Doak, Gil Hanse style, and people are just repeating the same things over and over again. And when are we going to get something different? A lot of the questions are like, what's going to be different? What's going to be the new thing that just kind of defies all of the current trends? And what would be your response to that general feeling?
People are looking way too much at the bunkers and not enough at the property, because like what this era of design is doing is it's valuing the individual nature of a piece of property and the reality that if you route holes along a property, they're going to be unique because it's going to be its own property. Like a great example is the 9th hole at Broom's Edge is this par 5, and it's a short par 5. Pretty big fairway, and I played it one time, and I hit an iron, and I thought I hit it to like 2 feet, and it just rocketed off the back. And I got up there, and I was like, "Oh my god, this green runs away like crazy!" And it's like the whole fall, the property goes that way, and it's like, sure, maybe the bunker style might look similar to another course, and the way the greens are shaped, but literally, the way that the ball just runs away, I've been thinking about that shot since I hit it. And it's like, I can't wait to play it again because I'm going to have to land the shot. Like, do I land it 10 yards short? I landed this one probably 5 yards short. Do I land it 10 yards short? Do I land it 15? Do I land it 20? Like, and it is just all with the fall of the property. So I think like people need to look at the property because that's what's going to like, a lot of these golf courses, if you just had the greens, no bunkers, and the property, it'd be fascinating golf to play. And then people would be like, wow, that was a lot different than this. Like Broom Sedges and Old Barnwell and Tree Farms properties are wildly different. If you took away all the bunkers, people would think they were way different golf courses, but they latch on to like the bunkers kind of look the same. So it all looks the same.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the rise of golf photography and its wide distribution has definitely had an influence on this.
Yeah.
Because what do you key in on when you're looking at a golf photograph? What do photographers key in on, for that matter?
Bunkers.
It's the bunkers.
And shadowing.
That's the thing that shows up the best, that color contrast between the white or tan sand and the green turf around it. That's always going to be the thing that photography focuses on, and art photography focuses on. Like everybody does this, but yeah, it's useful to keep in mind that the experience of these courses on the ground is always very different. This is always my response to people who ask whether, say, Corey Crenshaw are doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, do they have a style? Yes, they have a style, but that style is to honor the particular piece of land. And so if you go to these particular pieces of land and experience them, then the courses become really distinct in your mind. If you look at photographs, then they become hard to differentiate from each other. At the same time, I will say that story about Pete Dye building Harbor Town, going across the island and seeing what Robert Trent Jones was doing and just saying to himself, I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm just going to do something that is in every way different from what Jones is doing on the other side of this island. That's an interesting impulse, that contrarianism. And Tom Doak has some of this about him too. He wants to keep pushing. He wants to do things that are different from what other people are doing. But maybe some of that would be useful to current golf architecture, where maybe there's just somebody out there who's a really strong, smart architect, just says, I'm just going to try to do everything the opposite to what I'm seeing. You know, that would be interesting to see. And we might be missing that a little bit right now with this newer generation of architects who are pushing in different directions. I think Kyle Franz and Schneider and Conan are all doing kind of interesting
Andrew
different
Green,
things.
Tyler Ray are different, are drastically different, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it'll be exciting
we
to see
need
some
to
of their new
appreciate
build.
that.
Yeah.
But there's not really anybody who's really putting themselves down as the opposite of everything. And maybe that's the thing that's
what
lacking.
Faz is now.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, and also people should keep in mind, Nicholas Designs still building a lot of golf courses. Greg Norman still building a lot of golf courses. Fazio is still Discovery Lands guy. I mean, all of these architects haven't disappeared, right? They're just not dominant anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Do we want to do any other questions? Is there a wrap-up question we should do?
I say we break. We do part 2, and we'll release part 2. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds like a good plan. Does that sound like a good plan, PJ? Give me a thumbs up. All right. Thanks for coming on the pod, Andy. I'll talk to you later. This episode of the Fried Egg Golf Podcast was produced by PJ Clark. Thank you, PJ. All right, so Black Friday is coming up and Fried Egg Golf is getting involved in that. So the biggest sale of the year begins for Club TFE members very soon. Shop today and use your regular code at checkout to receive 25% off. Take advantage and just knock out your holiday shopping early this year. That's a wise thing to do. You don't want to leave things to the last minute. We're also introducing a bonus perk of our sale this year, the Fried Egg Golf Event Sweepstakes, we're calling it. Every purchase of $250 or more from November 19th through December 3rd will be entered into a raffle for free entry into one of our 2025 events. Eligible events include Colorado Golf Club, Moraine Country Club, Essex County Country Club, Lawsonia, Skokie, Broom Sedge, and Old Barnwell. See the pro shop for more details on our best giveaway ever. All right, so keep in mind we have Black Friday coming up. We have lots of great deals. Check all of that out. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back again soon with another episode.